I'm a semi-retired truck driver, and as you can see, I'm in a caravan. I take home just over $300 a week, and I can actually manage because I have no rental power. But having said that, I'm struggling to get enough food to maintain a healthy diet. We need to put more pressure on foodstuffs and progressive. How much profit do you really need?
The government's no-frills bread and butter budget is here. So have they made it easier to buy actual bread and butter? There's no mention of the supermarket duopoly, but $323 million will go towards continuing free lunches in schools.
It's been a struggle of a year. Now that I'm on a benefit, I just don't even believe how people survive. It's just so unrealistic and not anywhere aligned to the real world life of living every day.
Bad news for job seekers. Payments will remain as they are.
I studied as a veterinary nurse and then I did an art degree as a photographer. I've had a few jobs where I've been able to pay quite big chunks off, but I still have a reasonable amount of student loan left. All the talented, qualified students left the country, and a lot of them don't come back because of their student loan, and we're really lacking in nurses and teachers at the moment. And if they adjusted something with the student loans, then maybe there'd be a lot would come home.
Student loans won't be written off, but there's over $500 million for tertiary tuition.
My daughter rents a home and I believe she pays more than what I do for my mortgage, like in terms of rent, which is kind of staggering. And also, knowing that people are living in cars and living in not very nice places. And I think when people have something to call a home, that could make a difference.
While rents and mortgages will stay as is, there's nearly $403 million to expand the Warmer Kiwi Homes initiative.
If there was more taxes paid by the wealthy instead of their loopholes that they can get around because they've got clever accountants, maybe the top earners would pay a little bit more tax, which would take a little bit of stress off, the middle income or lower income having to provide all the taxes to the government. It seems a little top-heavy and unfair.
As promised, there is no wealth tax in this year's budget. No frills, but has Budget 2023 delivered enough?
Joining us now is Prime Minister Chris Hipkins. Congratulations on your first budget. I think something a lot of people could use help with at the moment is mortgage payments and interest rates. But what you've announced today isn't going to bring them down, is it? In fact, Treasury says it's going to push them higher.
No, the most important thing that we can do is get inflation back to within that 1 to 3% target range. And the Treasury's forecasts are indicating that inflation will be back within the 1 to 3% target range by the end of next year.
But they also said that interest rates are going to go up more than they did 6 months ago before you announced this budget, right?
And there's a variety of factors contributing to that. Obviously, international factors come into play here, but of course so does the cyclone. The cyclone is going to have an effect on the government's finances. It's going to have an effect on the broader economy. I'm not willing to sit here today and say that we decided not to rebuild after the cyclone in order to try and keep inflation down. We actually have a responsibility to make sure we're supporting people affected by the cyclone and affected by the flooding. The reality is that does have an effect on the economy.
Mr. Prime Minister, this is my first time ever interviewing or speaking to a Prime Minister, so my palms are sufficiently sweaty, but I'm very excited. I have been recently informed by my wonderful friend sitting next to me that as a phenomenal actress, I still can't quite claim that I can ride the bus for half price because I look over 25. And I don't have any kids currently, so what is in the budget for me?
I think the main thing, that one of the main messages from New Zealanders out of this budget is that we're focused on getting the economic balance right so that we can tackle the cost of living. Getting inflation back down to within the target 1 to 3% band is actually one of the most important things governments can do to benefit all New Zealanders, because at the moment, with inflation running hot, we've seen the cost of living going up every time you go to the supermarket. We've seen interest rates going up. Every household feels the effect of those things. Getting inflation back down means every household will benefit from that as we see costs get back under control. And then in time, that will ultimately lead to lower interest rates, and that's going to be better for Kiwi families.
Prime Minister, for a first question to a Prime Minister, how did Kim do?
Oh, she did pretty well, actually. Yeah, she did pretty well.
Okay. You okay, babe?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, guys. I'll tap out for the rest of this. Yes.
Prime Minister, I know that you've moved up the tax rate for trusts to stop the wealthy hiding their money there. In a recent Newshub poll, more than half of people wanted a wealth tax. If you're re-elected, will you have another look at that?
We'll set out our tax policy for the next election before the next election. What we set out in 2020 was a commitment not to introduce new taxes. We did say with regard to trusts, though, that if we saw evidence that people were shifting their income into trusts in order to avoid paying their fair share of tax, that we would do something about that. And we are doing that in the budget. We signalled that 3 years ago at the 2020 election, and we'll be really clear when this election rolls around what we would do in the next term, and we'll stick to that.
Well, Prime Minister, congratulations on a big day. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Kia ora, welcome along to the project. And Kim Crossman is here, everyone. Make some noise. Great. Have you really not interviewed a Prime Minister before?
No, and I was so nervous. I mean, I've been very fortunate to interview some amazing celebrities and stars with my job with you guys, but I just assume intellectually I'm on the same playing field as them, but I just get intelligence inferiority and my hands were sweaty. I couldn't do it.
I know what you actors are like. It'll be on your CV, won't it? Political journalist.
Yeah, actress/political journalist. Watch out.
This is my 2 cents as my pretending to be a political journalist for the day. I feel like this is not a big, delicious feast of a budget, but there are lots of little healthy snacks in there. I'm pretty stoked about having free prescriptions, and I'm pretty pumped that my 2-year-old is going to get 20 hours of free ECE. So, give me some more little healthy almonds.
I remember as a kid, the budget day, and Dad would get into it, and I found it so boring.
Yeah.
And as I've got older, that hasn't changed.